The modern scientific view of the world is just way too complicated for most regular folks to wrap their heads around. No single scientist can cram all the knowledge we've piled up over the last couple 3 centuries into their own brain, let alone the average Joe. But that's not the only reason why superstitions, old wives' tales, and all kinds of pseudoscience junk are still running wild today. Another big one is that a lot of what real science says goes straight against our gut instincts, the way our brains are wired from birth, and the common sense ideas everybody grows up with. In a review article that just came out in the latest issue of Science, a couple of psychologists from Yale, Paul Bloom and Dina Skalnick-Weisberg, talk about studies on this thing they call resistance to science. Recent polls show that 42% of grown-ass Americans are dead sure that humans and animals have looked exactly like they do now since the beginning of time. Even among the smaller group that kinda accepts evolution and natural selection, hardly anybody can actually explain what it means. Most think it's some mysterious rule where kids end up better suited to their environment than their parents were. This resistance to science isn't just about evolution either. A ton of people buy into unproven medical treatments, ghosts, astrology, you name it. You might think, hey, let them believe whatever, as long as they're healthy. After all, thanks to all the tech and progress from real science, most people in rich countries can live pretty cushy lives, without understanding jack squat about it. But nah, there's a political side too. In a democracy, it's these same clueless masses that end up deciding policy on heavy science stuff like climate change, GMOs, stem cells, cloning, vaccines, and all that. Recent studies show that some parts of this resistance seem to be the same across all cultures, and come from 2 basic things about how kids' minds work. One is what kids know right out of the gate, and the other is how they pick up new info. Science clashes with the built-in ideas kids have about how the world works. Even a 1-year-old baby ain't a blank slate, they already got a pretty solid grasp on the physical world and people stuff. Babies know objects are solid, they stick around even when you can't see them, they fall if nothing's holding them up, and so on. They also get that grown-ups around them do things for reasons and have feelings about stuff. This built-in knowledge is great for learning more later, but it can also make it tough to swallow some scientific ideas. For example, a kid's rock-solid belief that unsupported things fall makes it hard to buy that the earth is round. Otherwise, wouldn't everybody on the bottom side just drop off? Kids usually don't fully get the round earth thing until they're 8 or 9, and before that they twist it, like yeah, it's a ball, but people only live on the top half and nobody falls off the bottom. Some of these kid misconceptions are so stubborn that even school doesn't knock them out. A bunch of American college students still think that if a ball rolls out of a curved tube, it'll keep moving in a curve. They pick option B on the diagram. As for why so many folks hate on evolution and other biology breakthroughs, it comes from another kid brain thing. Little kids see purpose and design in everything around them. They call this promiscuous teleology. No surprise there, the human brain evolved mostly to solve practical problems, set goals, and figure out how to reach them. For us and our primate cousins, the biggest problems were always social, like climbing the pecking order. To do that, you gotta read other people's motives, and that skill started by judging others like you'd judge yourself. So it's natural that kids, or primitive folks, extend that to the whole world, like hearing thunder and figuring, some big guy up there made it happen for a reason. Studies show 4-year-olds are convinced everything exists for something, lions are for looking at in the zoo, clouds are for making rain. Kids also lean toward creationist explanations, everything was made by somebody for a purpose. There's even a theory that this mindset gave an evolutionary edge. If you assume everything has a purpose, you're motivated to figure it out, and see if you can use it, which encourages exploring and learning, so it might have gotten baked into our genes. This stuff doesn't fade much as we grow up. Poets say the same kind of thing, if the stars are lit, it must be for somebody's sake. These gut feelings make it tough to accept evolution, just like basic physics intuitions mess with accepting a round Earth. Another built-in kid idea is dualism, thinking body and soul, or brain and mind, are totally separate things. American preschoolers know the brain handles some thinking stuff, especially deliberate things like math problems. But those same kids won't buy that the brain's needed for pretending, playing hide-and-seek, or loving your brother. If you ask them what happens if you swap a boy's brain into a pig, they'll say you get a super smart pig that still wants pig stuff and knows pig things. This dualism crap gets in the way of accepting modern brain science, which shows all our spiritual side is just physical processes in the brain. The clash between our natural dualism and science creates weird real-world problems. Like debates over animal experiments, human embryos, or stem cells often boil down to whether those things have a soul. Plus, when lawyers started using brain scans on criminals, some started arguing that if bad behavior comes from the brain, the guy ain't responsible, his brain made him do it. So not just kids, but grown lawyers flat out reject what science says about the mind. A lot of this resistance comes from how we're wired, but some depends on the culture you're raised in. That's why different countries push back harder on different science ideas. Americans, for example, reject evolution way more than people in most other developed countries. Every society has its own set of facts that everybody just accepts without proof. Kids soak these up without questioning. Stuff like what words mean, or believing in germs and electricity. In rich countries, nobody doubts germs exist. Kids believe in those invisible critters without a second thought. Germs fit nice with our purpose thinking, they explain sickness, spoiled food, etc. But most knowledge, especially science, ain't something kids or adults can check for themselves, 'cause we're clueless about it. So we judge the info by who it's coming from. If the source seems trustworthy and super confident, we swallow it whole, even if we don't get it. That's those Americans who believe in natural selection but can't explain squat. This ain't just science. In one study, people rated political proposals and gave what sounded like thoughtful reasons. But stats showed they were really just going by whether it came from their party, Dem or Republican. Dem supporters backed totally undemocratic ideas if they thought it was from Democrats. Turns out kids do the exact same thing, even more so. By 4 or 5, they know adults know more than other kids. If an adult and a kid disagree, they side with the adult. They get that some adults are experts, docs know sickness, mechanics know bikes. And kids trust people who sound dead certain, way more than wishy-washy ones. Scientists who hedge with, well, this is just a hypothesis for now, don't stand a chance with kids. The researchers wrap it up like this: resistance to science starts when scientific ideas clash with kids' gut intuitions. It carries over into adulthood, if society doesn't fully back those ideas, and it gets real strong when there's a fake alternative that feels like common sense and comes from respected, confident sources, like politicians or religious leaders. In the US, that's exactly what's going on with evolutionary biology and brain science. They go against kid instincts and against what a lot of big-shot figures say. The real conflict is not between science and ignorance, but between science and intuition. Our minds evolved to navigate social life and everyday problems, not to grasp abstract, counterintuitive truths. Science is difficult not because it is complex, but because it contradicts common sense. As long as human intuition feels more trustworthy than abstract evidence, resistance to science will remain the default, not the exception. If you think this material was useful, hit like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.